I went to China and started creating my own furniture product that was purely for staging. So heavy cabinetry going in and out of homes is not practical. Coffee tables with stone tops, etc. Creating the furniture was definitely a bold move, but something I've never looked back on, and a big part of the puzzle that I've immensely enjoyed and has been heavily rewarding that I would never have ever dreamed of doing.
Sarah, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you in here. It's a long time coming, and we'll dive straight into it. What made you walk away from your finance career to start a home staging business in Perth? Is that right? Start home staging?
Yeah. Property styling, home staging. It's evolved definitely since then. But yeah, 10 years ago I was working in finance. I don't know how I really ended up in finance. You know, you leave school, you get a job, you sort of work your way up through the ranks, and I did really enjoy it. But I think there was definitely something lacking in my life that I wanted to start to do something not only creative, but something for myself. So at the point in time, realestate.com had really changed the way properties were being marketed. And we were seeing on the East Coast this thing called home staging that originated from America, where people were bringing furniture and soft furnishings, artwork and things into a property or their home to make it look more appealing for their professional photography. And let me tell you, professional photography at that time was such a new thing. So I thought, okay, nobody's really doing this in Perth. Nobody's really doing this really well in Australia. I might give it a go.
Why not?
Why not?
And I suppose that's like, from what I've seen, is is it Selling Houses New York, or and you see them and they're like, you know, they pile everything in and showcase it and give it that real wow factor. And the beautiful thing I love about that is how much of a difference it can make. And then you see firsthand, and again, the American style, on how much impact that can have on the price when you look at it and how well they stage it. So
yes.
And how did you go about, you know, when you first started, how did you, being new to the market, I suppose, how did you go about getting your first clients and getting them to, I guess, believe in your vision?
Well, I think it first started with me believing in the vision. I had my first project while I was still in banking, and once I got that underway, I thought, okay, I might be onto something here. And the result that I got for the first project really gave me the belief that, hey, this could be something. And then I only really needed one or two clients to believe in the concept, and I was off and running. It was as simple as that. But in terms of educating real estate agents and property people and home sellers of the value that my service could add was really, really hard. A lot of door knocking, a lot of rejection, a lot of, I think you might be crazy, nobody's going to do that. And, you know, back to real estate marketing being such a new thing, coming from a real estate family myself, growing up in a real estate office that my parents had, selling property out the back streets of Boulder, you know, imagine going and saying, oh, why don't you stage this home and we can create a beautiful marketing campaign. You know, back then it was just a really foreign concept. You know, 11 years on, you know, real estate marketing now is so sexy. It's powerful, it's engaging, and it hits people emotionally and wants them to spend more on property.
Especially the women.
Yeah.
They do.
Target market.
And when did it click that you were building a whole new market? Like, when did that, was it the rejection side of it, or when those first few challenges, or?
I actually think probably years later. I think at the time I had that fire in my belly, and I came from a really competitive working environment in banking and finance. So I had that drive and determination. I look back now and I think there was a little bit of craziness and a hell of a lot of perseverance. But it wasn't until afterwards, years later, doing my own furniture and creating my own product, that I look back and think, I didn't have a stick of furniture. I door knocked furniture stores. Can I hire this from you for a shoot? And now I look back and I think, oh, wow, I was starting an industry from scratch.
I love that. And what did they say when they said, we just want to borrow your couch for a couple of days?
Yeah, they'd say, oh, that's you can hire it from us. It'll be $600 for the month. And I'd right, okay, I'll go back to my spreadsheet and write how much will it take for me to furnish this house.
They used to sell within a week.
They didn't. They used to stay out, so I needed them for the full month, the full campaign. Now looking back, that it wasn't a viable business model, but I just did what I sacrificed what I had to make it all work.
And when you say style, we style for emotion, and I love that because we buy on emotion. How does that translate to the rooms that actually sell faster? Is it that sending people into where they emotionally get not attached, but where they just love it?
There's a lot of psychology around what we do in terms of the furniture that we choose, the way we choose to place the furniture in a room to create a lot of flow. And funnily enough, the way that you walk into a home and the way that you feel impacts you in those first few seconds. So there's a lot of colour psychology involved, what colours make humans feel good, and that's a lot of neutral tones. It's a lot of, natural elements like timber and linens and stone that all make people feel calm and relaxed in a space, while also elevating the space. So, you can take an empty box and you can put high-end furniture in, and that empty box is going to look very high value. If you take that away and put a cheaper style and bright colours and things, it can look a little bit cheap and tacky. So it's all about impacting people on first impressions, whether they're clicking online or walking straight into a home. And it's taken us a lot of trial and error to know what really looks good and is as high impact, right down to the cellular level of a human being.
And so just on that, would it be like a case of you going to a 4x2 in Kingsley, or considered a family suburb compared to, I guess, a penthouse in Applecross? Do you find you style that to go, well, we know roughly the buyer that's going to be looking at this. We're not going to style as an executive stage layout where it doesn't suit kids or anything like that. Does that have an impact? Do you mentally look at that and go, this is going to be for a family home,
yeah,
and this is going to be an executive 2-bedroom. We don't need monkey bars in here.
Yes and no. The answer is yes and no. So the fundamentals are the same. And as a brand, we've worked really hard at sticking to what our basic fundamentals are, which is impacting people when they look at houses that we've staged. So every home will have a beautiful finish, and every home will stick to our colour palette and our styling principles. Yes, we want a family home to feel a little bit more casual. However, we don't style for casual. So even it's the finish that kids will even walk into and go, Mum, are we going to go with the house that had the blue bedroom? And is that blue bedroom going to be my room? We're still wanting to, sell this lifestyle that is fake essentially. And if we're doing a high-end, multi-million-dollar apartment or home in the Golden Triangle, well, we need to increase things like the amount of stone we're using. We wouldn't be putting matte, dull fabrics and things in a home that needs to be elevated. So it's our job to understand the difference, but we will always be elevating every property. We don't downplay the finish.
One thing I love about what you just said then was that it's the old saying that if you're trying to please everyone, you end up pleasing no one. You've stuck to that style and said that's our product, and we'll just stay in that lane. Thanks very much.
Exactly, and it's very hard to work with home sellers. There's so much emotion involved in that property transaction. So it's like me coming into your house and you've only seen your house your way. and I'm going to say, oh, all that's going out the window. This is the way to do it. It's a challenging conversation to have. And sometimes it's had at arm's length through the real estate agent, just planting the seed. Have you thought about presenting your home in a different way to increase the value? People do get a little bit like, oh, what's wrong with the way that we live in this home? And it's great, but it's your home and we want to make it a marketable product and get you the best price possible.
And I've been through a few home opens, and you go around the side or in the shed, and it's just like stacked with like all the cheap and nasty. That you can see that they've just said, you need to declutter, and you need to get rid of all that old furniture, and you need to get rid of that and put that over there. And you're looking, you're like, oh, because it does the clutter and all that sort of that. When you put that first impact that you walk in there, you go, oh, geez, this is busy.
Well, that wouldn't fly with me. It needs to go off-site completely because look what that's done. It's given you the thought of, hang on, what's happening here?
Yeah.
But we don't want a shadow of a doubt. We want the highest price. You walk away going, I must have that for every reason.
Yeah. And what's the boldest business decision you've made to scale Perth Style Company? I'm sure there's many.
I think furniture is, well, so 3 years in, right? I'm going to need furniture. Duh. Where was I? Where was that on day one? That was in the business plan, but not to the scale that we require. So I went to China and started creating my own furniture product that was purely for staging. So, heavy cabinetry going in and out of homes is not practical. Coffee tables with stone tops, etc. Stone's not made for moving around on and off trucks. So creating the furniture was definitely a bold move, but something I've never looked back on, and a big part of the puzzle that I've immensely enjoyed and it's been heavily rewarding that I would never have ever dreamed of doing.
And so just to elaborate on that, so you do now, you manufacture your own furniture, and how often would you be engaging with your trading partners to tell them, how does all that work? How does that? How did you just tell them we want 4 coffee tables, or do you go, that's the style we're going with? And they say, Sarah, we need to make 1,000 of those.
Yeah, it's a pretty big process that's become my full-time job, and we start. Well, we have about 40 houses furnished across Perth at any point in time. So each year we start to evolve that look, what's on trend. It is a competitive industry, and we have to be having all the latest and greatest and beautiful. We can't have chips and damaged furniture out in properties. That's not what people are paying for. So we replenish our stock every year, and about spring into December, we start concepting for next year, and our peak every year is the spring selling season. So we start designing, concepting, throwing Pinterest boards for days, sharing ideas, and then for March we'll start creating our orders, China visits, meeting factories, revising all of our concepts, and making all the final decisions with each factory in March, and then it will all be here for July, August, and then we get it all out into houses and market it really well, and then we do it all over again.
Beautiful. And is that, so would you say the trends are an annual, like that's a rolling thing, or do you find that some will stay for the longer period of time, where you just sort of go, right, we're moving, we've got to be first to it? Yeah, I'm sure you get, ideas from overseas or other places that are probably a little bit more advanced than Australia, but is that do you find that is it a flip on its head every 12 months, or it's sort of just a bit of a tweak?
Because we carry such a high volume of inventory, it is an expensive exercise, and it's very hard. Our creatives in our team will vouch for this. It's very hard to not jump on trends, and we always talk about what is on brand for us as Perth Style Company, as a brand, and how that will look in a home. Something that's really tricky is that we do work in the interior design space, and we love interiors, we love what's trending, but we also find that the people we're trying to target, the home buyers, they're not in our industry. They don't really know what's trending out of Europe this summer, but they know what's available to purchase here in Perth in our stores. So it's a tricky part about being too fashion forward and then misunderstood. We have to pare it back a little bit and just be like, right, we're here for the camera and we're here for the property sale, and not get caught up too much in what's super hot to trot, which is so hard because we want it to be ultra modern.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily our market.
And Perth Style Company feels premium and but also approachable. How do you keep that consistent? And I think you've sort of just briefly touched on that.
the word company come from me being a one-man show and selling something that I needed people to buy into and want to be part of. So I've always recruited talent in the areas that I don't have the skills to and elevate my team to be champions. And I think with that, when we talk about business values and who we are and as we've grown as a team, it comes back to our roots. And I think, growing up in a country town, it was all about relationships and connection and being a good person and someone that you want to do business with. And I think that probably comes from, our parents and the way that they did business. So no matter sort of how big we got and how big we continue to get, it's about what experience is our customer having first and foremost, and how did what we did make them feel. And we keep coming back to that as our value proposition, is that, we're here to help people through a really stressful time. We want to do it really polished, and we want to do it, exceed expectations at all times. So it's a bit more of an experience that we're helping people through rather than solving just a problem.
And they always say that people never remember what you say. They remember how they made you feel, or how you made them feel. Have you seen buyers' expectations shift over the last decade in WA's property market, other than the price tag?
Well, let's just rewind and let's go back a couple of years before the craziness that is this current year.
So would you say that's just post-COVID, or maybe mid-COVID?
Yeah, mid to post. Yeah. I think that social media has really changed how people view property, and it's like having people over for dinner and dinner parties. We just don't do it the way generations before did. Your home was your castle, and having people over for Sunday roasts and things like that was just the done thing. Now we go out, now we'll get Uber Eats, and that's the same for the way, homes are kept. But, look how well Kmart have done on their products and marketing that are totally achievable for people to go out and transform spaces and things, and Kmart and IKEA hacks and, all social drives, all of this. And when it comes to selling their home, people do want it all done for them. And so I think that the expectation when somebody goes into an empty property, or they go into a home that's not staged or hasn't really made an effort with the mentality like this home will sell itself, well, it probably will. But how much value are you actually adding to your proposition when you're selling it to get the highest price? Because people will pay more for a well-presented modern home that they can walk straight into. And, we find that not only just from putting the concept forward and hearing what people are saying at home opens, like, wow, this is amazing, this property's amazing, it's definitely staged. To buy
it's not the property, it's the staging.
It's totally the staging every day of the week. Beautiful new carpets, beautiful curtains, making it feel less lived in is what people want to see. And people know, that's from Kmart. Or people will say, oh, wow, this is so beautifully presented. Can we just buy all the furniture and move in? It's really changed that expectation.
Is that the ultimate test when someone says, we'll buy all the furniture that's in here?
Yeah, but again, their expectation is, how would I go and put this together myself? Mm. They see it all on social media, and they see it all, keeping up with the Joneses is what my friends have. And when you think, oh, okay, well, actually, this is a good example. Customers that have then, or home buyers that have gone and spent all day Saturday going up and down Scarborough Beach Road in Osborne Park, visiting all the stores, and then they send us an email, we're at the pub, we've given up, can we just buy everything the way it is? People just want it all done for them.
And what about, and a bit off subject, but have you ever had a staged property for someone and then they've seen it and gone, we no longer want to sell?
Yep, every day. Yep. So we love that feedback, but obviously we don't want them to feel that way, because, imagine watching footy in winter on a white boucle sofa, not able to actually touch the cushions, eating a pie. It's not realistic.
With 4 children, I can attest to that.
Yes. Yes,
what we think looks nice and what looks practical, they're two completely
different things. Yeah, so people that do want to buy the look, understand, or the feedback that we're having from people when they walk back in and say, oh my God, I love it, but we'd never positioned the sofa this way, and we never thought to sit in the lounge room like this, and our dining never faced that way. we've done that also that it photographs well, not that it's actually practical.
Yeah, and I love that because we recently did a backyard renovation, and the pool, we took an existing pool out, and we were just going to put a new pool in the same location. And I said to my wife, I said, I think we just need someone in just to flip it on its head. Just because we're married to the idea, that's where the pool was, that's where it goes.
Take the blinkers off.
Yeah, and then as it turned out, she suggested that it go a different orientation, and that's now where the new pool is. But without that impact from, or that advice from someone else that was, just not married to the idea, didn't know the existing pool went there.
Yeah,
just gives it another, just opens your perspective and goes, well, maybe there was a better way. Maybe there's where it functions better, or the pool went in 1976, so that was nearly 50 years ago. But yeah, it's interesting to get somebody with a fresh set of eyes to go, maybe the way you've always done it
isn't the way. Yep.
Isn't the way the way forward and going to get you that best results, because you're a results-driven company. And with AI and virtual staging emerging, what are the biggest challenges going forward?
I love AI, and I'm really lucky that I work in an industry where a human's always going to need somewhere to sit. So furniture's a solid lock-in for the future, great, and so is housing. And virtual staging has been around for probably, 8 or 9 years.
It looks terrible. Has it got better?
It's gotten so much better. Yeah. And I mean, look at some of the renders of those, multi-million-dollar apartments. My mum always used to send those to me and say, who staged this? It looks amazing. I'm like, that's not real. But I think that it's such an emotional journey to buy a property. And it's awesome to have the technology where overseas and interstate buyers can buy a property here in Perth without seeing it, being confident that it looks amazing. In a way, that kind of marketing has been great. But when people go to a home that's been virtually staged online and they walk in the front door and it's an empty shell, they see all the blemishes, they see all the ugly bits. It's got no makeup on, and virtual will never solve that problem. So then when we talk about AI, oh my gosh, marketing campaigns are getting cooler and cooler. They're mind-blowing. There's agents in, floaties swimming along pools with the offering acceptance, and, the drone goes over the top of them. Agents are getting really game with what they put out there. And I think AI in terms of, promotion of properties and property people is only going to get cooler, and I think that's really exciting.
I remember I sold a house in Queensland, and what drew me to the agent rang me and said, are you interested in selling? And I said, not unless you can get me a certain price. And I said, which I don't think you can. She rang me 12 months later, and I saw her on one of her videos. And it was rare for, I said, I guess someone in real estate to have the videos of, not like it is today. And she rode up on a BMX bike to the camera. And she rode up and did a skiddy in front of the camera, and she was like, today we have 26 Sutton Street in Burleigh Heads. And I was like, that's a bit different. And I was like, what a legend.
Yeah, it's definitely a thing. It's a thing. Yeah. It's only going to get bigger.
Yeah, I know. Where does it stop is what I want to know. What advice would you give to developers or builders looking to add more emotional appeal to their marketing?
Look, I think the end finish is really, really important in terms of adding value to their asset. It's so important. Like we just spoke about empty spaces when people get to a home after it's been virtually staged. It's how much emotion can we get people to buy into. Everything's got its market value, but how much can we influence what people are willing to invest? And the finish does all that. So putting the curtains in, particularly developers when, their end product is, we want to make it look exactly like the render that they've been selling for 18 months. Putting curtains in, putting light fixtures, anything that's a little bit OTT will go a long way. And that return currently is beyond measure.
Now, and just with that, is it how do you deal with, I suppose I don't know if you have to deal with that, but how do you deal with the not the buyer's remorse, but when they come in and they see this beautifully staged Perth Style Co apartment or property, and then they come into the empty shell and go, well, hang on a minute, the dust has settled, the fanfare's gone, the champagne's been drunk, and they've got an empty box to deal with, well, that's not your problem.
We're not really part of that, but the option is always there for them to buy as is.
Yeah.
So it means we've done our job really well, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And so just on that, how many are you seeing that as a trending thing where people, like compared to when you first started, people now, I mean, obviously manufacture your own furniture, there must be some uptake there. Is that where you're finding people are now more sort of wanting to purchase the turnkey package? And
yes, I think in certain market segments for sure, some more than others, apartments over homes. I think FIFO has a lot to do with that. People just want the ease of having it done. But it goes back to the reason I started my own furniture is because you can't get furniture to Perth. Everything's got a 8 to 12 week wait time. And, I was furnishing houses I needed it for this weekend. So getting furniture to Perth, never alone a whole house, is extremely challenging, and there's just not a lot of variety for people to choose from, and they just don't have the time.
Do you find that's more of an international buyer, or it doesn't?
Can be, honestly, it can be anyone. There's
no distinction. There's no sort of cut and dry.
No. So.
All right, that's all we've got time for today. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm chuffed that you asked me to be on your show. Thank you.
No, that's it's always a pleasure, and we look forward to getting you back on and seeing how Perth Style Co's evolving and making waves in the property market.
Thank you.